My sister betrayed me, stole my boyfriend, and now they're engaged, but when they returned, Dad disowned them and changed his will. 15 years ago, I felt I had everything under control. Maria, my older sister, was my hero. 23, cool, accomplished, and despite our age difference, we were quite close. Really, once I lost Mom to cancer when I was 8, we had to be. I'm Julia, Maria, Dad, and I against the world. Dad did his best when Mom passed. This is the narrative of how my sister ruined our family. Though she put in a lot of overtime in her building company, she always set time for us. Family day every Sunday was 3 of us watching football, grilling in the backyard, or playing board games without phones or interruptions. Simple things, but those times meant everything. One thing Dad especially cared about teaching us was values. He would drill into our heads these basic ideas: loyalty, integrity, respect. Your word and your loyalty are everything. If you can't be loyal to the people you love, you do not deserve them in your life. He said, stressing above all loyalty to family and loved ones. Your word and your loyalty are everything. If you cannot be loyal to the people you love, his voice got that serious tone we knew meant to pay attention. When I started dating Sam in my sophomore year, everything felt great. Maria and I took those lessons to heart, or at least I thought we both did. Dad sat us both down and said something I will never forget. If either of you ever cheats on someone, don't expect me to sit by you. That kind of betrayal, it goes against everything I have taught you. He was a junior, attractive, intelligent, and somehow he chose me. We hit right away, having similar musical tastes, and spent hours debating nothing and everything. Everyone adored him when he paid for family dinners. Dad treated him like the son he never had. And Maria? Maria and Sam started hanging out while I wasn't around. Innocent stuff at first. They got along wonderfully. Too terrific as it turned out. Maria would assist him with his college application since she recently graduated, or they would talk about music since both of them played guitar. That my sister and boyfriend got along so nicely caught me as interesting. God, I was naive. Looking back now, I can see all the indicators I missed. I even boasted about it to my friends, about how blessed I was to have a partner who fit so precisely into my family. The way their talk stopped upon my arrival into the room. How Sam would flutter just a little too much when Maria returned home. The coincidental times they would run across each other when I wasn't around. But when you're 15 and in love, you don't search for betrayal in the ones you most trust. Though it's right in front of your face, you don't want to see it. One Tuesday afternoon in October altered all that. That day will always be special since Coach Stevens had a family emergency and track practice had been canceled due to a very warm fall. Thinking maybe I would surprise Sam with unplanned plans, I was genuinely thrilled to have some free time. Instead, I was the one who got the surprise of my life. Sometimes I wonder whether things would be different if practice had not been canceled that day. Had I not entered my own house precisely at the wrong moment? You know how in movies, when something terrible is about to happen, they play this ominous music to create suspense, and then I remember what Dad always said about character. It's not about what people do when everyone's watching. It's about what they do when they believe no one else is. Real life does not function like that. Real life strikes you with its worst moments in total silence. On regular days when you're considering something as easy as what snack you're going to grab after school. I recall every aspect of that afternoon. The way the sun created long shadows across our living room windows. As I pushed the front door open, it creaked somewhat. My backpack is softly thumping on the floor. Maria sometimes worked from home, hence her automobile in the driveway made sense. Sam's bike leaned against our porch railing, which didn't make sense. My gut turned weirdly, but I fought down the sensation. He might have dropped over to study. Maria had let him in. Perhaps he was waiting for me. Perhaps later I heard laughter coming from upstairs. Not any laughing. Sam's laughter is unique somehow, more personal. You know that scene in horror movies where the protagonist is heading up the stairs and you are shouting at the screen for them to turn around? That is the kind of laugh I would never have heard him produce before. I was living that moment, but there was no dramatic music sweeping in the background to warn me. The sounds were coming from my chamber, just the sound of my feet on our squeaky stairs, and my heart thumping in my ears of all the rooms, my own. Like they couldn't even value me sufficiently to do whatever it was they were doing. Somewhere else I stood outside my door. My hand hanging over the doorknob, perhaps forever. Part of me wanted to pretend I never arrived home early, turn around, and walk away. Dad's voice rang in my head. Character is about facing hard truths, even if it hurts. So I opened the door. Scenes you cannot undo no matter how hard you try, sear themselves into your memory. One of those pictures is finding your sister and your boyfriend twisted together on your own bed. Time appeared to stop. Red on his cheeks, Sam hurried to cover himself. Maria merely sat there shirtless, like a deer caught in headlights. None moved. Nobody answered. Julia. Sam's voice trembled as he whispered my name. The quiet was so deep I could hear the clock ticking below. This isn't we can explain. Explain? The phrase whispered then got louder. Maria got up and stretched for her shirt. Explain. Sis, listen. Don't. I held up my hand, startled by how firm it was despite the shaking I felt within. Tears welling up in his eyes, Sam continued once more. Don't you dare call me sis right now. Julia, please. We have feelings for each other. We did not want for this to happen. They harbored feelings for one another. The word struck me like a physical blow. I questioned, my voice barely under control, how long? While I had been organizing our next date and working extra shifts at my part-time job to save for his birthday present. They looked at each other and that told me everything I needed to know. This was not an isolated event. This had been going on behind my back. It merely happened gradually, Maria tried to say. We didn't plan this, in my room? I interrupted her. On my bed? Was that gradual too? Sam was totally bawling now. Surprising myself with how chilly my voice sounded. Julia, we should talk about this. We owe you an explanation. You don't owe me anything anymore, I said. We're done. Both of you, we're done. Maria said, stepping toward me. Don't be like that. We're family. That word familiarized something inside me. Family? I chuckled, but it sounded more like a sob. Maria moved out to touch my shoulder. I pulled back like her palm was made of fire. Is that what family does? Sneaks around with their sister's boyfriend? Lies? Betrays? Julia asked, don't touch me. Don't talk to me. Just get out. Both of you, get out of my room. Sam is still sniffling, Maria looking anywhere but at me. Silence is how you gather your things. Sam tried one last time as they passed by. Could we kindly just discuss this? I genuinely stared at him. The boy I thought I loved was standing in my doorway holding his sister's shirt wrinkled in her hands. It was like staring at a stranger. There's nothing to talk about. I muttered softly. Just go. I stayed in my room gazing at my rumpled bedsheets after they were gone. The place seemed polluted somehow, like though every memory I kept there had been poisoned. Everything I understood about love, about family, about trust, all felt like a lie. My legs gave up and I slid down the wall to sit on the floor. My hero sister, the person I most admired following Dad, she had turned on me in the worst conceivable manner. Furthermore, Sam, my first true love. I'm not sure how long I stayed there, but finally I heard Dad's car draw into the driveway. He had helped her do it. She would have been home from work in a few minutes, most likely wondering why Maria's car vanished and why I was sitting by myself in the dark. I had to tell him. Dad, who valued loyalty above all else, wanted to hear what his oldest daughter had done, but, first, I had to figure out how to get up again. There's something weird about sitting in your kitchen, attempting to tell your father that his eldest daughter betrayed her youngest. The door opened and Dad came in still in his work attire looking tired, but content like he always did after a great day at the building site. Mom had chosen years ago and I sat at our worn oak table listening to Dad's boots on the front porch knowing I was about to break what was left of our family. He glanced at me once and stopped straight in his tracks. Julia? His voice changed from weary to worried right once. I started to say, what's wrong, daughter? You look like you've seen a ghost, but my throat locked up. How on earth would one begin a conversation like this? Dad dumped his lunchbox on the counter and sat down across from me. His hands worn from use folded on the table. Talk to me, kiddo. The moniker almost shattered me. Robert Mitchell was still built like the former high school football player he was, but in that instant with worry wrinkles pinching his forehead, he appeared older. Not kiddo in years, but just then I felt around 5 years old and needed my dad to fix everything. I inhaled deeply. I came home early from track practice today, I said, sounding less than perfect. Coach Stevens had an emergency, so I told him everything. Maria's car turned out to be in the driveway. On the porch is Sam's bike. Sounds from upstairs, walking in on them from my room. Every word observed Dad's face changed. First uncertainty, then incredulity, and lastly, the scariest sight I'd ever seen, pure cold wrath. When I finished, the kitchen was so silent you could hear the old clock over the stove running. Dad sat there, knuckles white, his hands locked into fists on the table. Maria. Her voice suddenly exploded across the house, making me leap. Maria, get down here now. I choked heavily. Dad sprang up so fast that his chair slapped against the floor. She's not here, Dad. She left after I caught them. He took out his phone, dialed Maria's number, then turned it on speaker. Maria. Dad's voice was deadly calm now, which was even worse than yelling. It rang 3 times before going to voicemail. He tried 3 more times. You get your ass back to this house right now. We need to talk about what you did to your sister. Each time directly to voicemail. Dad said, I'm not coming home tonight. I need time to think. Julia's overreacting anyway. Sam and I have real feelings for each other. Dad said the message aloud, his voice getting harder with every word. He stared at me with a mix of wrath and grief I will never forget as he finished. He's trying to explain it gently, like it's somehow okay because they have feelings for each other. Dad slapped his hand on the table. There is no justification for this. None. He began to pace the kitchen. Something he always did when truly agitated, your own sister with your boyfriend in your room. He stopped abruptly and stared at me. Are you okay, daughter? Really okay? The question caught me off guard. I hadn't really considered how I felt. I had been so fixated on telling him what occurred. I just keep seeing them there in my room, and my voice cracked, and suddenly Dad was there hugging me like he used to when I was small. Until that point, I had not understood how much I needed that. Listen to me. He added, his voice raw with feeling. I nodded against his shoulder, feeling tears I had been holding back suddenly start to flow. What Maria did, that's not what family does. That's not what I taught her. You did nothing wrong here. Understand? We stood there for some time without saying anything at all. At last, Dad drew back. His face set in resolve. Your sister made her choice. She stated firmly. Now she has to live with the consequences. What does that mean? I asked, wiping my eyes with my sleeve. It means, Dad's voice was steel, that when she finally decides to come home, she'd better be ready to pack her bags. I won't have someone who betrays family living under my roof. Part of me wanted to protest. Despite everything, Maria was still my sister. But another half, the one that kept seeing them together in my room, knew Dad was right. She'll most likely attempt to argue I'm overreacting. That I'm being dramatic about the whole thing, Dad said, shaking his head. We spent the rest of that evening in the kitchen with Dad ordering pizza because neither of us felt like cooking. Some boundaries you don't cross, Julia. Betraying your own sister like this? That's one of them. We gently avoided the Maria-shaped hole in our discussion, discussing everything and nothing at all. We both understood, though, that things would never be the same. Dad stopped me in the corridor just before bed. I nodded. Julia, remember what I've always told you about loyalty? That it's everything? That's right. And today, Maria showed she has none. That's on her, not you. Never forget that. As I slept in bed that night, after stripping everything totally and replacing everything, I kept thinking about how fast life might change. This morning I woke up to a boyfriend I thought I loved and a sister I searched out. I now had neither, but I did have Dad. Time cures all wounds, but whomever said that they never saw their sibling decide to leave their family, sometimes that's enough to enable you to confront whatever comes next. 6 years elapsed following that day. I tried to reconstruct some sort of normal life after graduating from high school and beginning college. Maria left that evening not truly returning. Apparently, she and Sam got engaged. I learned about it from our Aunt Karen, who still kept an eye on both of us. Dad and I managed it just the two of us. We descended into fresh habits and customs. Sunday football became our thing. Holy time when we'd order wings, rage at the TV, and pretend we didn't notice the vacant spot on the couch Maria used to sit in, but life has a way of throwing curve balls when you least expect them. Dad started off more fatigued than normal. We both dismissed it at first. He was working hard and spending extra time at the building firm. He then began, however, dropping weight. Not in a favorable manner. His work clothes hung free. His face appeared thin and the strong energy he had always possessed simply disappeared. He would say, brushing off my worries, probably just stress. Maybe I'm too old for this building project. But I knew my dad, Robert Mitchell, never required too old for anything. Dad, you need to see a doctor, I said one morning watching him try to hide a coughing fit behind his coffee mug. This was the man who still performed 100-pound deadlifts at the gym at 54 and who could outwork guys half his age on the building site. Finally, after weeks of seeing him push through whatever was wrong, I set my foot down. He tried to argue, but for once I was the stubborn one since this isn't regular. I scheduled the appointment myself and drove him there, sitting in the waiting area as they did tests. The doctor brought us both in to go over the findings. I recall playing with my phone, trying not to think of Mom starting the same way, exhausted all the time, losing weight. The moment I set eyes on his face, I knew it was terrible news. Cancer stage 4, already spread to his lungs and liver. How long? Dad said, his voice firm even as I felt my world spinning sideways. Without treatment, maybe 3 months. With vigorous treatment, we might prolong that to 6 or 8. The doctor paused, glancing between us. Dad simply nodded as if he were talking about weather forecasts rather than his own death. Given how far it's progressed, we're talking about quality of life against quantity. Numb. I sat there watching him probe sensible questions about treatment choices and side effects. Not one more was all I could think, unlike Mom. That evening, when we arrived home, I tried calling Maria. Nothing. Complete quiet. Dad deteriorated quickly as well. He had to stop working, something I never would have imagined occurring. You don't have to put your life on hold for me, he would say. But we both knew I did. I took a break from college to assist care for him and picked a part-time job I could do from home so I could be there. Maria never came up because that's what families do, true family. Through it all, through every doctor's visit, every round of treatment, every night spent in emergency rooms when the pain was too great, not once. Aunt Karen made an intervention attempt. One day visiting us during Dad's especially difficult treatment cycle, she commented she should know how bad it is. Maybe if I talk to her, she knows, I muttered more cruelly than I intended. She just doesn't care, Dad said, his voice weak but firm. Don't let anger poison you, daughter. Maria made her choices. You focus on making yours, but how could I not be angry? Maria was off living her life as we did not exist while I watched our father squander away. Where was my sister learning how to administer injections, control medications for pain, and deal with Dad's growing weakness? Aunt Karen said, planning her wedding to the boy she stole from me. The worst part was not even Maria's absence. It was seeing Dad try to disguise his grief every time someone mentioned her. What is it, Dad? I'm proud of you. So proud. You've shown more strength, more character in these past few months than most people display in a lifetime. Dad, don't. Let me finish. He stopped, reaching for my hand. I thought I taught Maria better, but in the end, we make our own decisions. You? You decided to be here. That means everything. I felt tears burning my eyes but fought back. Dad needed me to be strong. I learned that from you. He grinned, but it was laced with grief. Looking at him there, my strong, proud father brought down by disease but still trying to teach me, still trying to make sure I was okay. Maybe, but you made it your own. Don't ever lose that, Julia. Don't let what Maria did ruin who you are. It split something within me, but it also sharpened my determination. Maria might have left us behind. I will not. Dad died on a calm Sunday morning in October. I would stay there till the very last, as that is what actual families do. It felt reasonable somehow. Sundays had always been our day. Half watching a football game on the little TV we had moved into his room, I was sitting next to his bed when I observed his breathing had changed. He was there one instant. Then, Maria never paid him a farewell visit. Never even made calls. The funeral was modest, exactly as Dad would have wanted it. His building crew arrived in force, sporting neat suits that seemed odd on men I knew from the workplace in hard hats and work boots. Aunt Karen handled the minutiae I couldn't get myself to face and arranged everything. I kept watching the door, part of me still expecting Maria would come up. A few of Dad's old acquaintances mentioned what a fantastic man he was, how he'd always been there for people, and how he exemplified integrity. She knew, Aunt Karen murmured to me during the reception. I only nodded, not trusting myself to say. I made sure she knew about everything. What could I say? That my sister hardly bothered to show up for our father's funeral? That she had decided to leave, most likely with Sam, as I buried the father who raised us? 2 weeks following the death, we visited with Mr. Peterson, Dad's attorney. I expected little. Most of Dad's savings were gone between his early retirement and the medical expenses. I was ready to handle any debt still owed. Peterson nodded and pulled open a hefty file. Very well, now regarding your father's last will and testimonial. What followed left me mute. Dad, it appeared, had been more frugal with money than either Maria or I knew. His house was completely paid off, investments had silently increased over the years, and he had life insurance plans we were not aware of. But that wasn't the shocking part. Mr. Peterson said from the will, I leave the sum of $5,000. I blinked. Maria, my kid. That's it, Mr. Peterson said. Then there's more. My throat clenched. Maria, If you're reading this, know that this amount reflects the choices you've made. When you walked away from your sister, you walked away from this family. Actions have consequences. I left the remainder of my estate, including the house, all financial accounts and personal effects, Mr. Peterson said. Julia, you stayed. You showed what family truly means. Everything I have is yours, not because you're the younger daughter, but rather because you earned it by your loyalty and character. I sat there, stunned. Dad had always been up forward about his morals, but this was his final statement on what mattered most to him. There's a personal letter for you as well, Mr. Peterson said, handing me an envelope. I opened it with shaking hands. Julia, you're reading this. I'm gone. I'm sorry I had to leave you so soon, but know that having you by my side these past months gave me peace I didn't deserve. You showed strength I never knew you had. I know you might feel guilty about Maria's portion of the inheritance. Don't. She made her choices long ago, and this is simply the result of those choices. Sometimes the hardest part of being a parent is letting your children face the consequences of their actions. The money, the house, they're yours because you proved yourself worthy of them. Not just by staying during my illness, but by showing character when it would have been easier not to. By choosing to be the kind of woman I always hoped both my daughters would become. Take care of yourself, daughter. Don't let bitterness eat at you. Maria's choices are her burden to bear, not yours. I love you, kiddo. Dad. I had to stop reading several times to wipe my eyes. Dad understood just what I needed to hear, even beyond the tomb. There's one more thing, Mr. Peterson replied, pulling out another document. Your father changed the will 3 months ago to include a specific clause. If Maria objects to the will or tries to claim a bigger share, her $5,000 inheritance will be donated to charity instead. I almost chuckled through my tears. Dad had considered everything. When can Maria be notified? I asked. Based on the terms, I expect we'll hear from her soon. He was right. This morning, I sent the notification. Maria was trying to reach me from different phones since I had blocked her number years ago. I deleted all without reading it. Dad's last lesson about consequences was about to hit home. For once, I wasn't going to feel guilty about it. 3 days after Mr. Peterson read Dad's will, Maria finally managed to corral me. Having left the grocery shop, I heard her voice behind me. Julia, we need to talk. I hadn't seen her in 6 years, but I immediately recognized her voice. Turning around, I could hardly see my sister. The confident, magnetic woman I used to look up had been replaced by someone who appeared eager. Come on. Just hear me out. This is ridiculous. $5,000. Dad could not have meant. I slammed my trunk shut harder than necessary. Her designer clothes could not cover the wild look in her eyes or the tension in her shoulders. Years ago, Maria ran her hand through her hair in fury. She meant every word of it, just like she meant it when she said betraying family was unforgivable. I was young. I made a mistake. You can't hold that against me forever. I turned to face her totally. A mistake? Is that what you call sleeping with your sister's boyfriend? Abandoning our family? Not even showing up when Dad was dying? I didn't know how horrible it was. Bullshit. I interrupted her off, my voice sharp enough to make a couple walking by jump stop. That's not fair. She said, Aunt Karen told you everything. You knew exactly how bad it was. You just didn't care. I was dealing with my own issues. Sam and I were planning our wedding and don't. My voice lost warmth. Don't you dare try to justify missing Dad's last months because you were busy planning a wedding to the boy you stole from me. Maria's expression tightened. Sam and I are happy together. We're in love. It wasn't just some fling, and that makes it better? I said, laughing cruelly. Look, she continued, trying to seem rational, what's done is done, but this inheritance thing, it's not right. I'm her daughter too. I want my fair portion. Your fair share? I went forward. Maria had the decency to turn away. Where was your fair share of responsibility when Dad was sick? Where was your fair share of the sleepless nights in the hospital? Where was your fair share of watching him waste away while you couldn't do anything to help? Maria said, I couldn't handle seeing him like that, but I shook my head. But I could? No, Maria. You don't get to play that card. You made your choices. Dad made his. The will stands. She vowed to challenge. I have rights. I grinned suddenly, not a nice smile. Go ahead. Did Mr. Peterson tell you what happens if you contest it? Your $5,000 goes to charity instead. Dad thought of everything. Maria thought of everything. He was sick. Maria's voice increased. He wasn't thinking properly. You must have persuaded him. Don't you dare, I said, cutting him off once more with a deadly low voice. Maria's face went white. Don't you dare suggest I manipulated our dying father. You want to know what really happened? He watched you abandon us. He waited for calls that never came. He hoped until the end that you would show up and that you would be the daughter you raised, and you failed him every single day. Julia, please, I need this money. Sam and I, we're having difficulties with the mortgage, and so that's truly about? I asked. She cringed at that. You're in financial trouble and suddenly you remember you have a family. Just like when you needed somewhere to hook up with my boyfriend, you remembered you had a sister's room to use. We're still family. She repeated one more time. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is you turning up now asking for money. When you couldn't even bother to come to Dad's burial. What's not fair? We're still family. I unlocked my car door. We stopped being family the day you chose him over us. We stopped being family when you ignored Dad's calls from his deathbed. We stopped being family when you decided that your happiness was worth destroying everyone else's. The will remains, Maria. Take your $5,000 and go back to your life. That's all you're receiving from this family, she said as I got into my car. Actually, it is. I started the engine. Dad made sure of that. I watched Maria standing in my rearview mirror shrinking smaller and smaller until she vanished totally as I drove away. Like 6 years earlier, that evening I sat in Dad's old chair, my chair now, and reread his letter. Every phrase felt more important now, especially the one about not letting bitterness eat at me. I gazed about the house, our house, full of memories of Sunday football games, family dinners, and life lessons given by a father who valued loyalty above all else. Maria might have considered this inheritance as simply money and property, but I knew better. On my mantle, there's a picture of Dad, Maria, and me from before everything collapsed. Dad's last monument to the value of decisions and their repercussions. Sometimes I look at it and question the family we could have been, the sister I lost. Then I remember Dad's advice: don't let their choices become your burden. Instead, I concentrate on living the way Dad taught me, with honesty, with loyalty, with character. Since ultimately, that is the actual inheritance Dad left me. Everything else is only details. Maria never challenged the will. With her $5,000, she vanished back into her life with Sam. Though I have learned to dissuade Aunt Karen from trying to inform me about them, occasionally, she still does. My story is here in this house, practicing the ideals Dad taught me. Their tale is no more. Maybe someday, when I have children of my own, I will impart the same lesson Dad taught me. That family is about choices, loyalty, and character. These are the things that really count in the end. Blood is only one aspect.